The information provided on this show does not, and is not intended to, constitute legal advice. Instead, all information on this show is for general informational purposes only. The information provided is not a substitute for legal advice, and we recommend viewers consult an attorney for specific legal matters.
Welcome to Condo Craze and HOAs here on our YouTube channel. I'm Karen Curtis with...
Hi.
Eric Glazer, who's board certified in community association law and condo law. And you're like one of a handful...
Don't say handful. That's the right handful of nothing this week.
Attorneys that's board certified by the Florida Bar in community association law.
Handful.
He had, well, explain why you have a huge Lego on your hand.
Wrist surgery and carpal tunnel surgery. The good thing is if Karen says something wrong or interrupts, look at that, look at that. Just this subtle touch.
You're doing repetitive motions with your left hand?
Yeah, that's what it is. That's what the doctor said. I got to keep doing that. Right, exactly. So we'll get through it.
I don't want to know.
Okay.
All right, anyway, so this show is made possible by our lovely sponsors, whom we love. And they are fantastic, and they offer the best services in South Florida, including our diamond sponsor, Best Roofing. And again, we're here to answer all your calls and emails, and also, are we answering emails? No. The chat box questions.
Yes.
That anything that's making you absolutely crazy from 1 minute to the next in your condo or HOA. And we'd love to get the phone lines going. The number to call is toll free. It's 717-GLAZER-8 with a Z. 717-GLAZER-8. You want to show your fingers the numbers?
No.
7.
Are they all below 5?
717-452-9378. And you can visit us on the Condo Craze and HOA's channel chat box here on YouTube.
Hey, good evening, everybody, and great to be with you again on Thursday nights. Love the switch. If you're a fan of the show, don't forget to subscribe to 2 things. Number 1, of course, the Condo Craze and HOA's channel on YouTube. You don't have to watch the show live. You can watch any of our prior shows that we've done before. I think, Robert, we got like, what, maybe 150 prior shows now that we've done on YouTube. The numbers are outstanding, really. So many people watch. Every show I got over 1,000 hits before.
Exploding.
Yeah, we're doing great in that regard. And of course, don't forget to join our email list at condocrazeandhoas.com. By joining each week, you're going to get announcements about the show, our free seminars, updates on the law, and a whole lot more. And we're all over social media, aren't we?
We are. We're on the socials. You can get us on Facebook, TikTok, Apple, Spotify, and Twitter.
Yes.
Oh, X.
And we do a blog every Monday morning at hoa-condoblog.com. This week's topic, it's time for the banks or our great state to come to the rescue. And this is the topic that's even blowing up today as we speak.
Yeah, the governor wants a special session, but he also wants 0% loans for these people who...
Well, that's what today's show is basically all about.
Where you can get your money.
Yeah, and you talk about call in with your questions and comments, things that make you nuts and antsy. But what you're hearing from the governor is going to make people nuts and antsy because, as we'll talk about, I think he's potentially setting people up for a letdown. But we'll get there.
Well, he wants to have a special session to tweak the laws that passed for the repairs and the reserves to make condos safer because everything's coming due on the at the end of the year.
Or just go backwards, and that ain't happening. Okay. So that's people are starting to think that way, and as we blogged about and as we continue to talk about on this show, it's dangerous. Stop thinking that way because it's not going to happen.
This is happening.
And this is happening, and you're hearing different things from the governor's office that you're hearing from the Speaker of the House, that you're hearing from Kathleen Passidomo, the President of the Senate, and it's going to set people up for a letdown, and it's going to cause condominiums to let down their guard, and that's what I'm afraid of.
Yeah, because he wants to move the goalposts and maybe delay some of these repairs.
It ain't happening.
And
it's. I don't think it's going to happen. I certainly don't think it's going to happen. And we've had politicians on the show that made it clear that it's not going to happen. Lopez has been on the show. She made it clear it's not going to happen. And like I said, Speaker of the House made it clear it's not going to happen. So, I don't know, unless the governor knows something that we don't all know about, and that
Well, he's doing these town halls all over the state, and he's kind of like ginning it up.
well, yeah,
And they voted unanimously to pass this legislation.
right, exactly. So I just don't see it happening. But before we get there, hey, I want to thank the Coral Lakes Master Association in Delray Beach. They wanted a private board member certification this week, just us, and it went off really, really well. We had like 30, 40 people in attendance.
Was it 4 hours?
It was 4 hours and 17 minutes, actually. 4 hours and 17 minutes. And
you weren't keeping time,
this
were
was
you?
with a small group.
Yeah.
So,
And you had lots of questions.
yeah, but picture a group with 400.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh man, this could be an 8-hour course if we really wanted it. Yeah, there's a lot, really a lot.
And now they want the legislator to go back and change it all again.
Yeah, right. Yeah, sure.
And you just taught it.
But yeah,
They can't do that.
No, they can't. No, absolutely not. Education is here to stay. That I can promise everybody.
Okay.
Yeah, it's certainly here to stay.
Yeah, but the education, you're going to have to change your
Oh, if they go and change things again,
syllabus.
we're going to have to change
That's
things
what I'm
again.
saying.
No, not going to happen. Not going to happen.
Yeah, because you're
But,
teaching them one thing. Oh my gosh.
No, God forbid we go the other way. You know, look, we had Martin. What's Martin's last name? From he lost Martin Langsfeld.
Langsfeld.
Yeah, sorry about that. And guy lost his sister. Guy lost his brother-in-law as a result of the collapse. I mean, you talk about somebody who's advocating for education, advocating for mandatory repairs.
You don't think the pendulum swung too far to the other as a reaction?
Okay, so what do you do now? Okay, so what do? You say, all right, forget it. We were wrong about the inspection thing. You don't need the inspections. You're right. Inspections cost too much money. Could you do that? Okay,
No.
wait a minute. We were wrong about that whole reserve thing.
No.
Forget put away money anymore.
No.
No. So
No.
you got to do it the right way. You
Yeah.
got to. You said this many times. You got to rip the Band-Aid off.
Yeah.
And it's going to be tough for a little while. It's going to hurt. It's going to sting a little bit, and then everybody will be living in a condominium and paying the true cost thereof.
If you
run it.
if you postpone the inspections and postpone,
You're going to have the same thing again.
That's what they've been doing. That's
Right.
why we are where we are.
Bingo, Karen. Bingo.
Anyway.
But,
So you took questions even after the seminar was done, right?
yeah, when these,
They, like,
yeah,
cornered you in the
which
hall.
is what we do every single time. You know, especially when we do it at the big events like the L&L events. We go back to the booth, and we answer, no joke, a few hundred questions. So that I love to do. We're there all day. The boards enjoy it. And if any boards out there want that private session that we just did for Coral Lakes, just call the office 954-983-1112, 954-983-1112.
So you do it in person, or you can do it Zoom.
Yes, some people showed up by Zoom. Some people showed up in person. It was great. It really
Oh, I
worked
love
out
it.
very, very well.
I'm just going to quickly go through the other seminars
Yeah,
that
sure,
you have
go right
going
ahead.
on at the L&L Condo
Yes,
and HOA
go
Expo
ahead.
starting at 8 a.m. around the state. October 9th, you're going to be at Palm Beach County's Convention Center. October 15th, Broward Convention Center. October 24th, Tampa Bay Convention Center. October 29th, Bradenton Convention Center. And November 13th, Orlando Orange County Convention Center. And again, you teach all the topics from time to time language,
There's so
animals,
much to know.
special, you know.
And let
whatever.
me tell you, the time-to-time language, there's a minute from time-to-time language, is perhaps more important than ever.
Right, because does any of this apply?
Bingo. I did a whole column on that.
I bet the governor doesn't even know that.
No, nobody does. It's very unfortunate, but it's
This all
something
might be
that's gonna
moot.
have to be addressed. Yeah, I mean, what I wrote a blog, was all this for nothing?
Yeah.
And I will tell you that the group that I was with was really smart and kept asking that question. Well, wait a minute. Suppose we don't. Suppose we do have the language. Does this statute
Did
apply?
you
Does that
did you
statute
see their
apply?
language?
No, but it's an HOA, most of them.
Oh.
So HOAs don't have it.
Well, I guess if you do those in person, you know, you should have their documents.
Have their documents ready.
So you know.
So there is already a news broadcast that went out in Orlando that now there's provisions in the new HOA laws that say you have to let somebody who has a car, their own car, for business, and there's writing on the car that shows their business. Well, HOAs were always allowed to prevent those type of automobiles with writing from coming into the community.
Or it's
Well,
being stored, not
this
parked?
year, no, that just
okay.
so they can put their car
Okay.
there, you know, so they live in this house. They
Right.
want to be able to park their work vehicle in this house. But it contained written letters. So the HOA said, nope, sorry. And they were like, come on, it's my house. And the legislature this year said, okay,
ahead.
you can go park your car there. Well, people were celebrating at this one place in Orlando. And that very night, the board said, we don't have as amended from time to time language. We're not letting you do any of this.
And they were like, they didn't understand it.
They didn't understand it.
Yeah.
Big story.
What do you mean?
Big story on the news. And there's going to be a lot of this for HOAs that don't want to back down.
Well, once the board realizes that the language is there and what it means, but these boards don't know.
If they don't, well, if they do know and they realize
Well,
they
you'll
don't
teach it in
have
the course,
language, none of this potentially could apply. I mean, all of this potential hard work by the legislators for nothing in certain situations.
What if someone gets kicked out of their house and foreclosed on and they don't have the language?
Yep. Well, now go fight it on appeal.
Oh.
But that's a whole other issue. But let's get back to where we are in terms of where the governor wants to go.
Yeah.
And you know, he wants the legislature to come up with some alternative plan. And again, I don't think it's going to happen after a 110 to nothing vote. Like I said, the president of the Senate don't want it. The Speaker of the House doesn't want it. And the question is really, you know, is there anything that the banks could do, or the state of Florida, that can help out Floridians who simply don't have the money for what's coming?
Well, Robert said
and
that they're giving out some 0% loans in Miami-Dade County, right?
Yeah, at the county level.
So what, like, how much money and who's getting it?
It's reserved for hurricane preparedness.
Preparation.
Preparation.
Yeah, since we're not having any storms, go ahead.
Right.
So like roofs,
right.
windows, things like that. Anything to make your place safer. They're giving
right.
out,
Exactly.
Oh, for hurricane.
My Florida Safe Home program.
So it's not for condo owners that their building is going to fall down.
Well, we'll get there.
Okay.
Okay, we'll get there.
They have a program for condos.
Right.
Oh, they do. Okay.
We'll get there. So let me tell you where I think we can go.
Okay.
Yes, there's something that can be done. And I'll ask both of you guys this question. Suppose I ask you to make an investment that guarantees you a return, let's say, of 8%, right?
8%?
It's 8%. It's secured by a first mortgage on real estate, and you can't lose. I mean, it's secured by a first mortgage. Would you make that investment? I think you'd make it every day of the week, right?
Yeah.
And that is the opportunity, at least in my eyes, that the banks in Florida and that the state of Florida itself currently finds itself in. But so far, they won't make the deal. And very hard to figure out why at this point. And in a nutshell, here's the plan. Now, because the real estate market, as we all know, the real estate market has exploded, right? Over the last decade, we all know it. And so these very same people who are potentially now facing foreclosure and having to sell their homes.
Or a developer offering them 2 cents on the dollar
to get out, right?
You get more money out of your place.
Yes, correct. These very same people who have these, you know, so-called financial problems now and can't pay their special assessments, they are also the same ones that are sitting on boatloads of money, right?
So you've paid your mortgage off.
Yep. Correct.
You have a developer come in and say, well, we'll offer you half of what you paid for it. So you're going to lose half of what you paid on your house. But this way, you get it all.
Correct. Right. Because you have a tremendous amount of equity in your home at this point. Almost everybody does. But especially senior citizens who have their homes paid off, right? I think, you know, all senior citizens basically have nothing. They don't owe a thing on their residences.
Well, that's how they're surviving on Social Security.
Yes, they own them outright. So there's opportunities here to do the right thing. No question.
So you're saying that the very people who are getting foreclosed upon actually have the money for the assessments.
Yes, and to keep themselves in the house.
And to keep in the equity of the house will pay for the repairs of the building.
Bingo. So let's say, you know, exactly what you said. They're sitting on all this equity. I don't know why Florida banking institutions can't come up with a very simple loan that verifies through an appraisal process. Let's say that the owner has at least 50% equity in their home, right? And upon verification, the owner would be able to borrow a sum of money, right? It's secured by a mortgage on their condominium unit. It accrues interest every year, and it's simply due upon the sale of the condominium or the death of the owner. Now, it sounds very much like a reverse mortgage.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
But the reality is that you don't see it being given by the banks around here. Like you made a joke to me during the week, you only see it being given by Tom Selleck.
Yeah.
And I think he's too busy to run from house to house.
But what if some of these, lots of these people already have a reverse mortgage?
It's not as popular as you think, believe me.
Okay.
Actually, it's very unpopular at this point.
Oh, it is?
You don't see it too often.
Okay.
But isn't this a much better option for a
this,
person?
yes, absolutely.
And what does a bank have to lose. The interest continues to accrue.
Right.
Right. The bank loses nothing. When, God forbid, the person passes away, it's due upon the death of the person. The person wants to sell beforehand. Okay, the mortgage got to get paid off.
But they'd have to really do the whole building to make it work because because
understood what you're saying.
you
yes,
know the
because,
developer will come in and then they're
but
screwed.
but if the developer
You know what I'm saying?
forces them to sell, that would have to be paid as well. The developer couldn't get away from having a plan that doesn't pay off the first mortgage. That's a great question. That you just
Okay,
raised.
so that's interesting.
Any
So
plan,
it protects you.
Yes, any plan under Florida law. Great question, Ken.
That's
Any plan
perfect.
has to pay off that reverse mortgage that the developer comes up with. It's a
So
no-lose for the
You
bank.
need to do it.
It's a no-lose.
So they're going to pay the full price of your mortgage regardless.
Correct. They pay it off, right? If you're kicked out, you still have your mortgage paid off. Exactly. That's exactly right.
That's huge.
So it's win-win. So in my eyes, the very banks that we've been bailing out time.
They
and
should come
time
and bail
time.
these people out.
Don't you think?
Yes.
Don't you think? I think it's I think
Did
it's
you
that
think
time.
of this idea?
It's been on my mind. Yes, absolutely.
See,
sure.
the governor has all these town halls. You should join in on these town halls.
Well, when I'm asked to join, I'll join. Right now, everybody wants to, think they know everything. That's fine. Let them sit there and think they know everything without asking for help. That's okay. But how about asking some of the people that actually deal with this every day?
Right.
The people that are, in the trenches, quite frankly. But I think that it's the banks now owe it to the residents
What about
of the
the
state
state
of
doing
Florida.
the same thing?
Florida has tens, not of millions. Florida has tens of billions of dollars
Yeah.
right now. We've discussed it on the show
We're
before.
sitting on a big
These
pot of
hurricane
money.
catastrophe funds, and that needs to be tapped into right now to prevent our citizens with giving these same type of loans. Why can't the state do this? We have a different type of catastrophe on our hand. It's not storm catastrophe. It's the catastrophe of potentially people getting kicked out by the tens of thousands.
So do they need a special session to make this happen?
They probably do, or
Also-
at least next year. Next year, somebody should be working on putting together a loan
Or
program.
maybe they can do it in the special session.
Perhaps. They're doing it, as you know, as Robert was saying, they're doing it on a municipality level, a county level, but no, it's much bigger than that.
Yeah.
We need to now do this on a statewide level. And by the way, nobody's asking for anything for free. How about after verification of the equity in the home, the state gives a low-interest mortgage, again, also due upon the sale of the condo or the death of the owner. The interest continues to accrue during the life of the loan.
They give the money to the condo to fix everything.
Nope, they give it to the person,
The person.
to each person individually.
But then they pay the.
They pay their mortgage back just like they're paying to a bank. They'd be paying
No,
it
but
to
I'm
the state.
saying when they do this mortgage,
Yes, right?
the 0% mortgage,
Yep.
right?
Mhm.
But the bank gets.
Oh, there's two different programs we're talking about. One program is if you loan the money to the building. That's what Robert was saying, the My Safe Florida program, where buildings can get up to like $175,000. That's one. That's one program. Put that aside. That's for the building itself. What I'm talking about is creating a separate program. Every single resident in the state of Florida would be able to get a reverse mortgage in effect.
Basically.
Right.
But that
pay the
money,
assessments.
that money would go to pay
To
their
pay the
assessments,
assessments, correct.
and they don't have to pay on the mortgage.
No, they
Okay.
do not. That will be due and owing when, God forbid, they pass
So
away. So
no
there's
one has
nothing
to-
for a senior
yeah.
citizen to worry
You're
about
good.
ever. They're not getting thrown out of the house.
And it's wise in case a developer comes your way. So
Look,
how can the state lose
they,
either?
They can't lose. They can't lose. And quite frankly, they would look like a real winner, averting a potential nightmare for the citizens that moved here, spent their money here, paid their taxes here, established a life here, raised children here, bought homes here, and hope to retire here and even die here. And our state owes them nothing less. They should get on this, and DeSantis should get on this quick. So let's hear what our viewers have to say. Give us a call here in the studio, 717-GLAZER-8. Again, 717-GLAZER-8. That's 717-452-9378. Or drop us a question in the chat box on YouTube. We'll be back right after this.
High five.
are very large management companies and there are very small management companies. And I think Affinity sits somewhere in the middle of that, where they are big enough to provide you with all of the back of the house services, the accounting, the infrastructure, the support systems, but small enough to be high touch.
We believe at Affinity that we do the 9 to 5 so that you don't have to do that.
Welcome back to Condo Craze and HOAs here on our YouTube channel. Don't wait to the end of the show to call in. The phone lines are stacking up. If you have questions for Eric, he's happy to answer them. The number to call toll free, 717-GLAZER-8 with a Z, and that makes out to 717-452-9378.
Okay, let's take our first phone call of the day.
All right, let's go to John from Dania Beach.
Hey, John. Little feedback.
Or Boynton Beach.
You got feedback?
There you go. John, how are you? John?
There he is.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
There you go. How are you, John?
Good. Guys, how are you?
Good.
Eric, two quick questions. And if you would, first, it's my understanding that you bought an EV, and I just kind of wanted to get an idea of the good, the bad, the ugly about the EV, if you wouldn't mind.
Okay.
And then the second question is with regard to HOA. Okay, we're going to have to raise our maintenance much higher than what it is because we've been mismanaged for 26 years.
Okay, let me ask you. Let me answer your first question first.
Start with the ugly.
That could take the whole show, quite frankly. So I leased a Cadillac Lyric EV. Beautiful car, right? I mean, loved it, fell in love with it. Never was more excited about a car. I have an electric charging station at my house. You just pull up, plug it in. It couldn't be simpler.
You got rid of a Maserati for this.
I got rid of it, right, correct. Well, the car, after about 2-3 weeks, all of a sudden I'm in my driveway, starts going bananas. The electrical system starts short-circuiting out.
It locked you out.
And locked me out, right. And after 2 weeks, had to give it back to Cadillac. Cadillac had it about 45 days before I got it back. Got it back, had it another 2 weeks. Same thing in my driveway. Starts flipping out the electrical system. I give it back to Cadillac. They have it another 45 days, right? And finally, I go nutso, threaten to sue everybody and their mom, and they lemon law the car. Bought it back for me, gave me another one, and so far, so good. When the car works, when it works, I love it. I am a big fan of it.
Okay, okay.
That's the catch. It's got to work.
It's got to work,
Yeah, that's
right.
the only thing. But big, giant fan. And again, not so much for the environment. I haven't done nothing to do with the environment. Forget that. As a matter of fact, I can make the argument that an electric vehicle is probably worse for the environment than a gas car, right? You have, all the minerals and stuff that go into the batteries alone that's mined by 8-year-olds from what you hear in all kidding, no joke, in Africa and stuff. And what do you do with the battery when the battery got to be replaced? It doesn't disintegrate. So forget about the environment. What I like the best, never having to go to a gas station.
Right.
That I love. Okay, so that's enough about the car. Your next question, John?
Okay, sorry I asked, but I was thinking about getting into an EV myself, but something much less than what you got. Okay, second question. Okay, so because of 26 years of incompetent mismanagement, we're going to have to raise our maintenance. And, if we go above 5%, of course, according to our doctor, we have to get a vote of the membership. And I think it's a 67% requirement. If you don't get that, then you post another meeting and it drops to, I think, 30%. However, I think there's an ordinance that changed that to a plurality vote of 50% of the owners in total. Could you clear this up for me, please?
So there's a lot of confusion about all of these things, okay? The board of directors of a condo, HOA for that matter, has a responsibility to pass a budget that pays the bills for the association, okay? So
Some of them don't.
Well, they have the obligation to do it. So all this language in your governing documents that puts a limit on how much the assessments can go up in 1 year, it's my opinion you take that language and you throw it in the garbage. It means nothing because the board has a fiduciary duty to pass a budget that pays the bills.
What if they haven't done it, and so now you've got to do something?
You have,
have
to
to
do
do
it.
it.
You have to do it. There's just no way around it. There's a lot of cases out there now that make it very clear that if a repair needs to be done in the community, right? Some of you have language in your governing documents that say, well, you can't pass a special assessment for repairs if it goes over and above a certain amount. The courts have made that clear. Take that language, throw it in the garbage, because the board has a fiduciary duty to pass assessments to make the repairs that are necessary for your community.
But
life safety comes first.
Condos never did that until now.
Now they have a law right on point. There's a lot of cases right on point. Go look up the Bailey versus Shelbourne case, right? Right on point. Makes it very clear that condos, forget the language in your governing documents, something has to be fixed. You fix it regardless of whether or not there's a vote that's needed in your community.
Same
So
for
John, I'm
HOAs?
getting away from all that language. To me, it doesn't mean a thing.
Eric, I appreciate it. Best show on YouTube, as always. Thank you guys very, very much.
Thank you so much, John. Always a pleasure when
How
you
many
call.
miles do you get on the one charge?
310 or something like that.
And you only live 2 miles away,
Right,
so
exactly.
you
So
never have
I'm
to
good
charge.
for 2024. You're right. All right, let's look at some of the questions on the chat box here. Norman writes in, if the association has to spend hundreds of dollars in legal fees in order to respond to a complaint from a homeowner to the DBPR, that does not encourage homeowners to file complaints. Well, true. I can tell you, that's exactly right.
Because the whole place is going to pay for it.
They could not care less. There are people that are typically filing complaints against the
They don't
association. They could not care less, and they deliberately want to file the complaints.
To piss everybody
Trust
off.
me when I tell you that. Trust me. Also, is the DBPR obliged to report back to the complainant with the results of the complaint? Yes, they have to let the complainer know exactly what happened. Barry writes in, approximately 110,000 condominium board members need to take the 4-hour non-continuing education course by 6/30/25. Think about that.
How many have you educated over the 25 years?
About 25,000.
So
yeah.
just think
about
that.
that.
Yeah.
Right?
That's
Think
over
about
20,
what
15 years.
110,000 are. There are board members who are elected or appointed to the board prior to 7/1/24, and those elected prior to 7/1/24, yes, they have to do all this by June 30th of 25. So get busy. I mean, how is it going to be possible? It's going to be tough. It's going to be very tough.
DBPR is teaching it. You're teaching it.
And I know I saw Barry writes somewhere. Oh, he goes on to say there needs to be webinars and pre-recorded board certification courses in addition to live courses. That's true. In order to meet the deadline, I would agree with that statement. But to be honest, and it's not to knock the DBPR, but
They have a pre-recorded one.
They do have a pre-recorded one, and
Are you going to do one?
The problem with their pre-recorded class, no, because I don't think that people who are attending these 4-hour courses should have to sit there like mummies and not be able to ask one question, because during a pre-recorded class, obviously, can't ask any questions, number one. Number two, they're not lawyers, so they can't answer your questions either.
Well, that's
So
why.
how can you sit there in front of a 4-hour class and not have the ability to ask a question? To me, it's one or the other. You either want to attend, a class in person, or you want the teacher coming to you. One of the two, because there's just too much material.
Right.
Where you
Which
certainly
one are
have
you
to
going
be
to
able
learn more from?
No two ways
live
about
one.
it. Of course, you're going to learn more from the live one. Anybody online, Robert?
Yeah, we have someone from Vero Beach. The name didn't come through. So.
Okay, Vera, you're up.
Hello, this is Ann Brino from Vero Beach.
Hey, how are you?
And my question, I'm good, thank you, Eric. I've met you at the Palm Beach Expos a number of times.
I was the real tall guy, if you remember.
With the big thing on his hand.
right.
That.
How can we help?
Right? So the question I have, I have two really. One of the questions I have pertaining to the discussion that you're having is, okay, so even if the banks go ahead and give a low interest loan to residents in a condo, how are you possibly going to mandate that all the residents in that condo participate?
Right.
Because I'm sure that, 50% of them are not going to want to take on a loan when the other 50% don't want to.
Okay, well,
I mean,
why
how
do we,
would you-
why
how
does
would that
everybody
work?
have to do it? The board is going to pass a special assessment, right, to make these necessary repairs. If you want to go out and
Right.
get a loan from the state or from a bank, you do it. If you don't want to get that loan,
get
you don't need that
foreclosed.
loan, then you're either going to pay it out of your own pocket or you're getting foreclosed on. All I'm saying is we want to make the
Gotcha.
loan available for you if you need it. That's all I'm saying.
Gotcha.
It's better than getting
Right.
foreclosed on and losing your home.
Right. This is true, certainly. Another question I have, in the community that I'm in right now, the developer put live oaks all over the sidewalks. We
Yep.
have about 1,100 homes here.
Yep.
And so many of the trees have gotten very mature.
Mhm.
They're lifting up sidewalks.
Yep.
They're destroying the drains in the streets.
Yep.
That's common.
And it's a massive amount of money
Yep.
that has to be spent now to remove the trees.
Interesting
and,
situation. Okay, so let me
to
tell you what we're
grind
doing.
grind them
Yeah.
out. But no,
Yeah.
hold on.
Yeah,
one
go ahead,
second
go ahead.
now. So here's the problem. So now we're told that we have to, after we remove the trees and stump grind, we have to replace them with the same tree.
What is?
So is
Government.
yeah,
You gotta
it's-
love
you know,
government.
it's
Mhm.
like
That's insane.
insanity, right?
That's-
Doing the same
that's
thing
insanity.
over and over again with the same result. So what is it now? In the next 10 years, we're going to be spending another $1 million, you
No.
know, taking down trees and stump grinding them. So one of the board members said, well, you know, we have no other option, but what would your suggestion be? Because there seems to be something wrong with this whole
Of course you have options.
scenario.
Of course you have options.
I would just remove the trees and then replant them instead of grinding them
replant
up.
palm trees.
I know, but you have to put the same tree
Replant
back
palm-
in.
No, there's no chance that they should make you do that.
But is
for
that a law?
obvious reasons.
Ann, is
That's-
that a law?
Makes no sense whatsoever.
Apparently, Indian River County, according to the plat, mandated that we have these
Right.
live
Okay.
oak trees
Hold
all over
up.
the place.
Hold up.
So that's fine and dandy, but replacing them now
Okay.
after they're destroying everything?
Okay, all right, let me answer. So one thing you can do, you could try to make a revision to your site plan. And I'm actually doing that for one community
Okay.
in Pembroke Pines right now. Okay, the same exact thing where the oak trees are tearing up a sidewalk. They got violated for having a dangerous sidewalk. So what did we decide to do? Take them all out and not have trees there anymore. We're moving to amend the site plan. So that's what you need to do. Anybody in government who told you got to take them out and put the same ones back,
Yeah, that's so dumb.
that person needs to work somewhere else. I mean, that's that's not the answer. That's a
McDonald's.
practical solution. Right. And where Kamala worked. Right. Exactly.
My God.
So
Does the county have to approve an amended site plan, or can they mandate those have to go back in?
there is a board, right? Typically a planning and zoning board that you're going to have to appear in front of, or your attorney will have to appear in front of, and make the argument that you need some sort of a variance from your site plan because it makes zero sense whatsoever to put back something that's going to destroy your property all over again.
But what happens? You remove the trees and you put in palm trees.
Right.
Do the tree police come in there and what do they do? Arrest you for putting the wrong tree
It
in?
is potentially a change to your site plan,
But
but
they
okay.
could fine you,
They-
maybe?
Sure they can. Absolutely. You
But
gotta
before you
amend
spend
your
the $1
site
million,
plan.
yeah, amend your
Yeah,
site plan.
amend your site plan. It's not that big of a deal. I'm sure it would be approved. That everybody understands the nature of when you put in oak trees, it may look nice in the beginning, but eventually it destroys the place. Okay? So there shouldn't be any reason why they shouldn't approve another plan where you install palm trees instead. Okay? Very common. These things happen all the time in Florida communities. Okay? Talk to your attorney about
Thank you
that.
very much. I appreciate it.
You
By the
got
way,
it. Yes.
on the chat here, DWAST, who says banks want cash flow, not annuities.
No, not necessarily true. Absolutely not. This is a no-lose investment. No-lose investment. I think this is something that, A, they owe the state of Florida. B, it's a fantastic investment for them. All of it's secured by real estate that has a tremendous amount of equity in it. So banks, I can't see why you wouldn't do it. Let's take our bottom of the hour break. Taking your call, 717-452-9378, 717-452-9378. Drop us a question or comment in the chat box. Back right after this.
Rimkus Consultants offer the professional expertise to help condominium and cooperative communities provide safe, compliant buildings for their tenants. We have more than 170 Florida licensed engineers and architects who are experienced with local regulations and can assist with Senate Bill 4D compliance. We can help with milestone structural inspections, capital expenditure evaluations, structural integrity reserve studies, and developer transition reports. Focusing on energy, resilience, maintainability, and sustainability, our experts can help with every phase of the building life cycle. For mitigation after a catastrophic event, building restoration, repair and remediation consulting, or Senate Bill 4D inspections, please visit rimkus.com.
All over the world, people have plumbing problems. These problems can be expensive and destructive to fix. Have you ever wondered if there was a way to take care of your plumbing problems without destruction and an outrageous price tag? Welcome to Pipelining Technologies, Inc., where we specialize in fixing your problems without demolition and minimum cutting by means of pipelining. Pipelining is the ability to take a pipe damaged by root intrusion or long-term deterioration and make it new. By means of inserting an epoxy-saturated liner into the pipe and allowing it to harden or cure, leaving behind a brand new pipe.
That sounds great. How can I get pipelining in my home, commercial building, or condominium?
Simply fill out our online contact form and a pipelining representative will get in touch with you in a timely fashion, or call us directly at 561-853-5463.
And welcome back to Condo Craze and HOAs. Give us a call if you have a question for Eric. We're talking about how people that live in condos can somehow get some money, a big pile of money, to help pay the reserves that they're going to have to pay when these safety laws go into effect.
Well, we're talking also about a big potential letdown for condo owners in the state, because they're hearing one thing from the governor and they're hearing other things from the Speaker of the House. You're hearing other things from the President of the Senate.
He wants a special session to fix it and
telling him we're not doing
move the goalpost.
Right.
And
so, he's trying to make it look like he's, out there trying to do something nice and helping people. But, you're not helping people if you're saying, all right, we'll put safety on the back burner again. Don't worry about it. I can tell you the Senate's not going to do it and the House is not going to do it. Not when it originally passed 110-0. But we've got some good comments on the chat.
Well, let me give out the phone number so people can call in. 787-GLAZER-8 with
717.
717. I'm so sorry. 717 GLAZER-8 and 717-452-9378. That was
Robert.
Robert.
Don't wait till the last second. Don't wait till the last second.
We're having technical.
How about some of the questions that we got from the chat box?
Let's see.
Someone wrote in about Gilda Radner. Eric is a true New Yorker. Does he remember?
They're starting their
Gilda Radner talking about Richard Fatter from Fort Lee, New Jersey. Yeah. I remember it well.
Because of this thing, I guess.
Right, exactly. I think she was wearing this one week. Oh, she was, her and her husband, Willy Wonka.
Well, Gene Wilder.
Gene Wilder.
I loved
her.
There
was a marriage, right? Okay.
I'm Edith Ann, and I don't have to talk, but I don't want to. And you know what? I don't want to.
Hysterical.
Oh, so Mary Menace says, has anyone watched DeSantis's roundtable in Pinellas County? That's the one we're talking about.
Yes.
He also had one in Miami Lakes, said the same thing. He's also considering 0% loans to associations. He spoke about the billions the state has. So he is talking about it.
All right, wonderful. That's what we're saying here. Instead of making the loans available, I guess, to individuals, he's saying make the loans available to associations. Great. One or the other, I have no problem with that. But what he's not saying there is we're going to put safety second. In other words, you're still going to have to make all those repairs. You're still going to have to go through inspections.
He's saying both.
You're still going to have to go through reserves, but we'll make loans available to you. So, that to me makes sense. Okay? Yeah. No problem with that.
And they would need a special session to do that?
Would they need a special or wait until the next session to actually have this passed, but that would all come pass in about 9 months from now?
No, he
Can
wants
we
it
wait?
now. He
Can
wants
we-
it because
then
the
it would
bill's
require a
coming
special
through.
session.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
then that would work. They will do a special session for that.
Yes.
They would.
If they could do a special session for that, and that would be great. That would be fantastic for communities all around the state. Low interest loans to the association, no interest loans to the association. Fantastic. We're sitting on piles of money. Florida's probably in the best financial shape of any state in the entire country. So yes, we can give it to the associations in the state. Why not?
So it goes to the association, not the individual homeowners.
If that's how the governor sees it, yes. One way or another, I
I'm
got
not
no
sure how
problem
he
with it.
sees it. He's just saying 0% loans. I don't know what he means.
I don't know.
If
at
he
this-
means it's going to the association or the individuals.
Look, either.
Because your idea for the individuals
Yeah.
is really good.
Oh, look, if it goes to the associations, that's good too. I have no problem with it. That's fine, as long as we don't put safety second. Anybody in the, when we got anybody here on the phone?
Yep. Let's go to Pat in Palm Beach County.
Hey, Pat.
Remember Pat from SNL?
I do. How are you, Pat?
Good. How are you?
Okay, how can we help?
I miss you guys on the radio, but I'm happy to find you here.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. So at our board meeting last night, our president and our treasurer, so this is an HOA, the treasurer who's never been to a meeting in a year, and the president decided they didn't want their positions anymore, but they still want to stay on the board as directors.
Okay.
So we only have a five, man board.
Right.
Putting the vice president now in the president and treasurer's seats. The secretary says the same. It's really bad.
Okay.
It's bad. The whole board is fractured. Anything we can do about this?
That your
You can bring in a
seats-
president from
yeah,
anywhere.
That that your seats are being twisted and turned upside down. Is that what you're saying?
Your president doesn't have to be a board member.
Well, it depends what your documents say. It depends. Yeah, you can take a look at your governing documents, and you may find somebody that's interested who's actually not a director and make them the president of your board. I've had that, as a matter of fact, in some higher end communities, with people who are
Smart.
running people in their real life are on multi-billion-dollar corporations and stuff,
Brilliant.
and they're used to having a board of directors that control the officers down here. So they have one set of directors who control the company, and they tell the officers kind of what to do.
Yeah.
So that's what they're used to in their real life. So that's what they bring into the condo and the HOA.
Makes sense.
So that's one way of doing it. You can do that,
It's
certainly.
like the Speaker of the House. You don't have to be a representative.
Yep. So that's one way of doing it. But there's a woman that I've worked with on a board of directors for I can't tell you how many years now, and unfortunately, there's someone that's now on her board that's just filing complaints with the state and doing all kinds of things to upset life in the community. Let's just put it that way.
They're on the board and they're doing
They're
it?
on the board, yeah, just just someone that's causing havoc. And this woman who's in her 80s unfortunately resigned today. And I said, oh, come on, don't do that. Don't let her get to you, you know? And, but unfortunately.
Yeah, that's what they think we're going to do.
Right,
They're
so
gonna be set up and-
some people just complain.
Yeah,
That's just
they
how
love
they
it.
are, the nature of they just like to complain.
They feed off of
Right,
it.
they feed off of it. So, what
And they
can
want
you
to
do?
see
got-
you drop out.
Right, exactly.
That makes
Don't
them
give
happy.
in. Don't give in. But there's nothing you can do when people want to quit. You can't keep people on the board.
Right.
No way to do it. You have a right
But
to.
the problem is the problem is that they didn't quit. They wanted to be only directors, which really is bad because we're stuck with a treasurer who does nothing, doesn't answer emails, doesn't do anything, and a president who we have no idea what he's
How large is your community?
How old?
How large? How many units?
How large? About 340, 340.
Oh, so to remove somebody with a recall, you're going to need 171.
I
so-
know.
so
and
that's-
that's just rough.
that's-
Can you just recall one or two, or you have to do the whole board?
No. You can recall one. You can recall two. You can recall all. Yeah, absolutely. But
Yeah.
in order to recall any, you're still going to need a majority, which is 171. So for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, there's a way to remove people from the board of directors without waiting for the next election, and it's called the recall process. How does the recall process work? You can have like we're talking about here, a 5-member board. You can recall 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. With 340, you would need a majority, which is 171 people to each sign their own specific recall ballot. At the top of the ballot, you indicate specifically who you want to get off the board, and you can get the form right off the DBPR's website.
And then you have an election of
No, not an election. You just have people sign it.
Okay.
So you get 171 people to sign that they want
But who do you replace
these
them
3
with?
people. Now, if you're recalling a majority of the board, right? Good question. On the bottom of the form, right, you have to have 3 replacement members, people who are automatically willing to come on.
But the board itself can kick the president to become just a director.
Now, the board members, that's what a lot of people don't understand. The directors control who are going to be the officers. So the directors can always shuffle around who's going to be the president, vice president,
But they stay on the board.
But they stay on the board.
Until you recall.
Right. But if you want to actually kick people off the board, the only way to do that before the next election is to do a recall procedure, just like I was talking about, and you serve a majority of the votes, the majority of the community. You serve it on the board just like you would serve a lawsuit. That's how I do it. And the board has 5 days to decide whether or not it's done correctly, and there's no defenses to it anymore, almost none, no defenses. And depending upon whether you're in a condo or HOA, it has to be a vote, a board meeting within 5 days, and if they decide not to do it, you go to arbitration.
And what if the person you recall then runs for the board again in the future?
They can. A question is always asked, Karen.
Oh, that's
Yeah. Okay, they've been removed this year.
Yeah.
Next year, can they run again? The answer is yes, they can.
It's like replanting
Pisses
the live oaks.
people off. All right. People are really upset
Don't
about
vote
that.
for
but
'em.
That's the bottom line, is they're allowed. Look, we're running real late. Got to take
Karen,
our final
don't
break
vote
of the
for me.
hour. Got to take our final break of the hour. Keep the calls coming. Don't wait until the last second. You got it. Thank you. 717.
Thank you. Bye.
Now you got me forgetting our own number.
Glazer 8.
717 Glazer 8. 717 Glazer 8. Back right
It's your
after this.
name.
Forgot my name. What do you want?
In South Florida, the transition from bright sunshine to heavy rain and hurricanes can take a toll on your property's exterior and structural integrity. Cracked stucco, spalled concrete, they're more than eyesores. They can signal deeper issues. Now, with new Florida laws involving structural integrity requirements, we want to help you meet your milestone inspections and maintain the durability and beauty of your building. Since 2004, PD has been the trusted expert in structural concrete restoration, painting, and waterproofing for condominiums and commercial properties. Visit pd-concrete.com or call us today.
We are DMI Paving and Seal Coating, Florida's parking lot experts. We specialize in asphalt paving and repair, including pothole repair, seal coating using JC7 or polytar, concrete curbs, ramps, and walkways, and striping and pavement marking, as well as ADA compliance. We service commercial properties, including homeowners associations, apartment communities, shopping malls, warehouses, stadiums and arenas, and more. Experience is worth more than anything in an industry like ours, and our staff has decades of it. We have specialized equipment for any job, regardless of size, saving you time and money. DMI has a reputable history. We have been in business since 1956. We serve the state of Florida from 6 locations. Let us bid on your next parking lot project. Visit us online at dmipavingandsealcoating.com.
We are back for our final segment. Don't wait to call 717 Glazer 8. And the defense is wrong. The defense's case does not hold water because the DVPR does answer questions.
Apparently they do. The only way they can answer questions is if an attorney is teaching the class. And Barry, I don't know if an attorney was teaching the class, but the only way they can answer questions is if a licensed attorney is teaching the class.
True.
So I don't know. Helen writes in, can an election be held entirely online? And the answer to that is no, I don't think so, because you have to be able to vote in person. When you get to a meeting, there has to be ballots waiting for you that you have the right to fill out.
I thought they could vote online in condos.
No. When she says entirely online, I'm thinking you mean the annual meeting entirely online. I don't think so, because you have to have a place to actually go in, pick up a ballot. So that's the way I see it. No, it cannot be entirely online. Can you have electronic voting? Yes, you can have electronic voting in your community, but what you can but it's not email voting. That's one thing. Everybody gets confused with that. It's not voting by email. It's electronic voting that it has to be set up through a company. And no, even if you have that, even if you have all of that, no, you still have to have a place to go to physically, so you can hand in your ballot physically. Okay. Anybody else?
Yeah, let's go to George.
How are you, George?
Email voting. Yes, Eric.
Yes, how are you?
Hey, turn down your audio there.
Yeah, George, turn down the audio in the background, buddy.
Or George from the Iguana. And I just wanted to compliment you and Karen on the show. It's been absolutely
Thank you.
fan.
Thank you so much.
The past couple of days. And I just want to remind you that iguana shooting is still not legal in Florida. And
we can't hear you, George. You got to lower your radio or your computer.
Sort of highlights. I think the iguana shooting would be one, and I think the gentleman you called in a couple of years ago about the noise from the condoms upstairs would be another one.
You remember that one?
No.
Where there was a show about my neighbors are annoying me because when they have sexual relations, it's too damn loud.
But he was calling it about condoms.
Yep, we had, and I think it had to do with a condominium in Germany, as a matter of fact. It became an international event.
Oh.
But George, thank you, buddy. It's always great to see you when we go to Florida's West Coast. George, a big fan of yours. He bought you like a big
if I may make one final comment, Karen's Emily Litella impression, take it to Broadway. Take it 42nd Street. It was great.
Oh, my Emily.
Eric,
thank you, George.
Again, thank you.
Thank you,
buddy.
You got it. Appreciate the fine words. Big fan of the show for so many years. Funny, he talks about highlights of the show. Do you know what was the very first call we ever took on the show?
No.
Way back when?
Abraham Lincoln?
Yeah, no. You're not going to believe this. The first call was, why do women bother running for the board? What the hell do they know about fixing the roof?
That was
our first call we ever took on the show, believe it or not.
I can't believe I didn't quit that day.
Can you imagine that? Yeah,
I can imagine that.
How things have changed, right? Who else we got, Rob?
Go to the chat.
Okay, let's go to the chat. Go take us away, Karen.
Well, does anyone really care where any other participants have breakfast? Does anyone even believe them?
I don't know what that's about. Okay, we'll go to James. James, with the new hurricane laws with HOAs, can they force me to re-roof my house with tiles, or can I use shingles? My HOA does not have Calvin language. This is a really hot topic in HOA law now. Why? Because the new HOA statute comes out and says, as long as my roof meets AFSCME standards, AFME, I think it's 75 standards. Basically, as long as it reaches a certain level of standard under the Florida Building Code, your HOA can no longer say you can't have that style of roof. Okay, you're allowed. For example,
tin you can.
Yeah, your HOA does not allow metal roofs. Right?
Too bad.
Too bad, because metal roofs are certainly a far superior product than shingles, than barrel tiles. So you can say, okay, look, I'm putting on my metal roof. However, the association can say, well, wait a minute, we have certain colors that are required in the community. You will still be required to adapt to that color scheme.
Well, you have to paint the metal?
Yeah, but they're paintable.
They can,
they come in a wide variety of colors, and if you got to get it as close to possible. And the style that we use here, right? I mean, you can't have a style where your roof is 7 stories tall.
Oh, come on!
It's got to be
flying buttresses.
Right.
Why not?
It's got to be the same style as we use here in the community. But if your metal roof can do that, then yes, they cannot prevent you from putting a metal roof.
They wanted to make the metal look like tile.
Right, as much as you can. Right, and there's again nothing wrong with.
By the way, the first part of what I was reading here is an expression years ago, American businesses that were too big to fail. A few weeks ago, my wife and I had a nice afternoon. She ordered a macaron, I think a macaroon.
A
maybe.
macaroon, right?
I asked for a bite. She said too small to share.
Okay, I get. What that has to do with anything?
Well, too big to fail. You're talking about the banks.
Gotcha.
And so,
Bank is not going to fail by giving condo loans. Believe me, banks will be just fine. Loans to individuals or associations, they'll be just fine. What is the procedure for a budget committee meeting in a condo association? Okay, here's where it gets very confusing, Helen, but great question. And it's going to be very confusing for the next year. Okay, so condos that, we'll talk about ones that are 3 stories or taller and ones that are under 3 stories. So starting on December 31st, 2024 in a condo, you better have your SIRS study done. Right?
Unless the legislature meets in a special session.
Forget that. Don't. So, right? So your structural integrity reserve study, right, it's got to be done by December 31st, 2024.
Maybe.
Now, in 2025, when you send your budget out, right, you have to include reserves in your budget. However, for 2025, you could waive reserves. You can waive your structural integrity reserves. You can waive all your reserves for 2025. 2026 comes around. Sorry, you can no longer waive your structural integrity reserves. Okay, so that's starting in 2026. So all this really is starting to happen now. But when you send out a budget in your condominium, that budget must show fully funded reserves. If the board wants to give the unit owners the opportunity to waive the reserves in 2025, they can give the unit owners the right to waive the reserves in 2025. So you already
have a grace period.
But they don't have to correct. You have a 1-year grace period right now. Right, correct. You have a 1-year grace period right now. That's a good point.
Get it together.
What's everybody freaking out about? You automatically have a 1-year grace period, but there's confusion about that. But again, when you send out your budget in the condominium, you must show the reserves as fully funded. If you want, if the board wants to, they can give the unit owners the right to waive reserves or
which would be dumb,
have less than fully funded reserves. You can say, okay, let's do 30% reserve, right? Something like that. But the board does not have to. So the reality is if the board says, hey, we're not playing around, we want fully funded reserves. So the board just puts out a budget with fully funded reserves, and fully funded reserves it shall be, unless the unit owners get together, right, on their own volition, now it's a majority. It used to be a quorum of the unit owners that meet. It used to be a majority of a quorum could waive reserves. A majority of a quorum, no longer that anymore. Now it's a majority of all units. Okay, so now you have 100 units.
That's
it takes 51 to waive reserves. It used to be a majority of a quorum, much easier. Not like that anymore.
Unless you don't have Kaufman language.
And let's not even go there. I mean, but you see why
it's a mess.
But do you see it's a mess? But do you see why condominium and plan development law has become an area where Florida attorneys can become board certified? Because this is a mess.
You need to be.
This is a mess.
I mean, we talk about it all, and I'm still confused.
Yeah, I mean, I remember we talk about it every week.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
So at least until 2026, where all of this becomes mandatory, right? It's going to be confusing until January 1st, 2026 for sure.
I bet the governor doesn't even understand that you can do your SIRS.
Exactly.
And then you don't have to fund it till 2026.
Right. Maybe somebody
That's a long
maybe
time.
somebody should tell him.
That.
Tell him, Karen. I'm telling you. You have access. Tell the man.
Well,
okay?
I interviewed you. You'll be on WIOD in the morning, and also I'll put the article up on WIOD.com.
Thanks for interviewing me. Thanks for the honor, and thank all of you for the honor of coming to your homes on Thursday evenings now and having the ability to speak with you and answer your questions and teach you in person and represent you. And on that note, as a matter of fact, if you need legal help off the air, Rob, give them the information, please. Call Glazer and Sachs off the air, 954-983-1112, 954-983-1112, and we'll see you and speak to you again. Don't punch me. We'll see you and speak to you again. No matter how mad you are at me, do not punch me there. And we'll see you and speak to you again next Thursday at 7 p.m. Everybody have a wonderful, safe, healthy week, you and your families.
Thanks, Eric.